Looking at history, it is possible to identify a recurring pattern in moments of social and political instability. There is always a search for a clear enemy, a dictator, a party, an ideology, something or someone that can be pointed out as the evil to be fought. However, there is an even more insidious, more stealthy force that operates not in the basements of power, but in the minds of ordinary people. A force that the theologian, Lutheran pastor, and German philosopher Dietrich Bonhoeffer called stupidity. It is not ignorance in the intellectual sense, nor foolishness in the vulgar sense. Stupidity, according to Bonhoeffer, is a psychological and social phenomenon that manifests when an individual relinquishes their critical autonomy, allowing themselves to be guided by collective ideas without any conscious examination. A type of voluntary blindness which makes the person not only easily manipulable, but dangerously convinced of being right. This conviction is what makes stupidity more dangerous than intentional evil itself. The evil man acts out of deliberate will. He knows at some level that he is doing wrong. The stupid person, on the other hand, believes they are doing good, acts with enthusiasm, with moral conviction, with a sense of duty. And that is why their actions become more difficult to combat. One cannot appeal to logic, common sense, or rational debate with someone who has surrendered their conscience to the spirit of the times. As Bonhoeffer observed in his prison letters, against stupidity there is no defense. Neither protests nor violence can reach it. Reason is of no use. In this context, stupidity is not a problem of IQ, but of a surrendered moral conscience. It is a product of the environment, social structures, and collective pressure. In times of oppression and crisis, it spreads like an epidemic, infecting even the most educated, religious, and socially respectable individuals. People who, in times of normalcy, would never accept certain ideas become their fervent defenders, as they no longer think as individuals, but as extensions of an ideological system that has captured them. Carl Gustav Jung, in The Undiscovered Self, presents a complementary and equally unsettling diagnosis. The dissolution of the individual into the mass is the true collapse of civilization. Scientific rationality, technical progress, and the bureaucratization of the spirit create a man who is adapted, functional, but alienated from his own psyche. He no longer thinks for himself. He reproduces. He no longer feels. He reacts as expected. Jung calls this collective possession, a psychic state in which the individual unconscious is absorbed by the shadow of the collective unconscious. The result is the birth of a new form of servitude, one in which the subject believes they are free, when in fact they are completely identified with values they never consciously chose. This video proposes a deep analysis of this frightening phenomenon, stupidity as a destructive psychic and social force. Through the thoughts of Dietrich Bonhoeffer and Carl Gustav Jung, we will examine how the individual becomes complicit in evil without realizing it, how consciousness is captured by the group, and why, in Bonhoeffer's words, stupidity is more dangerous than wickedness. More than informing, the goal of this video is to provoke recognition. Because if stupidity is a contagious force, its cure requires a radical return to individual consciousness. And perhaps, at this very moment, you are more vulnerable to it than you imagine. For Dietrich Bonhoeffer, stupidity was not merely an intellectual deficiency or a momentary lapse in judgment. It was something far more sinister, a spiritual and psychological surrender that turns a human being into an unconscious instrument of power. While imprisoned by the Nazi regime, Bonhoeffer wrote in his letters that stupidity should be feared more than malice, because unlike evil, which is aware of itself, stupidity operates blindly, but with full conviction.